the one, the only, Ben Sion.
Good afternoon and welcome to Yeshiva YouTube, Just Dafit. Today we're doing Masechus Gittin, Daf Samach Dalid, number 64. Interesting daf today. We'll talk about the different levels of believability. Normally we're accustomed to thinking that two Eidim are believed 100% of the time. I'll try to debunk that from today's shir and elaborate more in Ian with Ben Sion on what the credibility of two Eidim is. It's not 100%. It's around 80%. I'll give you a little clue, but we're going to talk about other people who might have closer to 100% reliability, and therefore, depending on who has more credibility, they'd be believed in court, both for Tini Mamadis and for Gittin also. Let's start at the bottom. Sama Gilma Bay's the last three lines, or the Mishnah at the bottom, second to last line. Isha Amra is Kabbalah Giti. A woman, she makes a shlich Kabbalah, Kabbalah or get for her. Accept the get for her. She needs two sets of Eidim. She needs two Eidim documenting that she made a shliach, an emissary, to accept the get for her. And also another two Eidim to confirm that the husband or his shliach gave it to her, and then it was ripped up. Why it was ripped up, we'll talk about in the Gemara. Now, it could be only two people. They could be witnesses both for the shlichus and for the Kabbalah. That's okay. Oh, top of Samad Dal and Olive. Or if you have, right, three people, one for the first Eidos, the shlichus, one for the Kabbalah, and another aid who serves for both, who helps out both of them, that would also be okay, which is really a kol shekein. If the same Eidim can be both for the shlichus and for the Kabbalah, of course, when you have two different Eidim, the third one can combine with both of them. Gemara says, Itmar, Baal Omer leBikodon v'shlish Omer leGeirushin. There's a machlokas between the Baal, the husband, and the shlish. The shlish is a person who's holding on currently to the get. He has the get in his possession over here. The husband says that I gave the get to the shlish to watch, not to give it not to give it over to the woman yet. And the shlish, the one who's in charge of holding the get, he says that the woman appointed me as shliach l'Kabbalah, and the husband knew that, and he gave it to me. And the get for the gerushin is a valid gerushin. Me Neman, who's believed? Rav Huna Amar Baal Neman. Rav Huna says the husband is believed, and she's not Megoreshes. Rav Chisa Amar Shlish Neman. The shlish is believed, which is the halacha, and she has Megoreshes. Rav Huna Amar Baal Neman. Why is the husband Neman? Dimisa the gerushin Yahav Nalai. He has, besides his actual statement, he has circumstantial evidence, right? He could have just given it to her. Why did he give it to the shlish? Obviously, Migu he could have given, he could just given it to her. So therefore he believed even when he says, I gave it to the shlish. But I didn't give it for gerushin. I would have given it to her. Rav Chisa Amar Shlish then. Rav Chisa says the shlish, the person holding the get, is believed, and it is a good gerushin. Tahemne. Right? Because he's holding on to the get. So obviously the husband trusted him. So if he entrusted him, and you have the corroboration of the shlish saying that it was for gerushin, so therefore we don't rely on the husband, we rely on the shlish. Mesiv Rabbi Abba. Rabbi asked a question from the Brisa. Does Baldin Kamei Eidim Dami? Famous Brisa. Gemara quotes many times. If one of the litigants in a court case admits that he's guilty, that he owes someone money, his testimony is like Mea Eidim. Now it's questionable why the Gemara calls it Mea Eidim, right? Technically, the Gemara says the Bidgama Sechas Bava Metzia. 2 Eidim is like 100 Eidim. There's no difference between 2 Eidim and 100 Eidim. Why? We'll discuss more in Ben Sion why the Gemara uses Mea Eidim. If you admit, that's basically like the testimony of 2 Eidim. V'shlish neman mishneim. However, more ne'emanos than a baldover, more ne'emanos than shtei Eidim is a shlish. The shlish who's holding some document that both of the parties think he's supposed to be holding it for them for a different reason, he's more ne'eman mishneim. Ketzad. How does that work? Zel mer kach, v'zel mer kach. Each litigant says differently. Shlish ne'eman. The shlish chooses which one is right. So you see over here, this is a question on Rav Huna. Rav Huna says we believe the Baal, not the shlish. You should believe the shlish more than the Baal. The Baal is one of the Baal Dover. He's one of the litigants over here. So the Gemara says, this price is different. Shiny mamon, this yav, it's all about money. Money, there's less reason to believe one of the litigants because it's very possible that one of them could have been mochel. Right? Money, you could easily get rid of your obligation that someone owes you money if you're mochel them. If you say that he doesn't have to give it to me, I waive my rights to collect that money. So therefore, it's easy for money to be waived. So therefore, there's less credibility by one of the Bali Dinim. So the Gemara asks, "V'atanya b'chein l'gittin." But the Brisa says the same thing about this Brisa of Hudas Baal and Kameid. Now it applies to Gittin. The Gemara says Gittin means Gitte Mamon, documents of right as opposed to just money, right, which is al peh that he owed me money. Shtaros that say he owes me money. V'atanya, but the Brisa says v'chein l'shtaros, also v'shtaros. So if the Brisa said also v'shtaros, that means the Gittin were not shtaros of Mamon; they were actually Gitte Nashim. So the Gemara says, no, Mida Gabi Hadad Tanya, these two Brises were not taught next to each other, they were taught in different places, but both of them mean basically shtaros of Mammon. Tanan, Aisha Sha'amra, we're going to bring a proof from our Mishnah. Aisha Amra is Kabel Giti. She makes a shlichus for someone to makabel or get. For a shlichus shtik edim, she needs two sets of edim. Shnayim Sheyomru Fanenu Amra. Two witnesses to the appointment of the shliach. Shnayim Sheyomru Fanenu Kiyabal V'Kara. And two Edim testifying that the shliach was makabel it, and he ripped it up. V'amai, we'll talk about in a second why he ripped it up. V'amai lehem niyeh l'shlish. Meaning the shlish is the shliach over here. He's holding the get, right? Why don't we believe the shlish? Why need two Edim that testify that he got it? The shlish says he has it. So whereas the mika nafi gita mitota yadid lehem niyeh, right? We're talking about a case. We'll see why. We're talking about a case where the shtar was ripped up. The get was ripped up. The whole believability of the shlish, why is more neman than the Bali Davar, is basically relying on a migo, right? The migo, he has a migo. Migo is a concept that I could have made a better claim, but I didn't say that claim, so therefore believe me for the better claim. And therefore, what's the better claim to the shlish? If the get was in his hands, he could always give it to the woman. If he wants to, he can give it to the woman. So therefore, when he's saying, I'm a shlich l'kabbalah, I'm a shlich for the woman, and when I was accepted to the get as a get, so therefore he's not just an Eid Echad, but he's also believed with the Migo, which is a very formidable type of proof. We'll talk about that more, what level of proof that is in Yad Ben Sion, but it's very formidable proof. Here, however, the get was ripped up, so you can't give it to the woman, so he doesn't have a Migo. Amra. So the Gemara says it makes sense when she said, Kibel Lamali. Right? We need Edim in the Mishnah, right, to testify that she appointed this person as Shliach. Why do we need Edim? Forget it, fine. The get is ripped up, but why do we need Edim on the Kabbalah? I believe him that it's in his that he had it. He had it at one point. We're not believing him on the entire Gerushin, right, which is Davar Sheba'erva, but we believe on the Amar of Hamani Rebbe Lezer. Our Mishnah reflects Ben Rebbe Lezer, the Amar Edim Asira Karsi. The most integral fact in giving over a get is the people that witness the delivery of the get. And if she appointed a shliach, they have to witness delivery into the hands of him. So therefore, that's a tremendous burden of proof, which makes a gerushin. It's not just the proof. It's the krisus. The gerushin happens through that edus. We'll explain that more in Yad Ben Sion. It happens through the edus. You need basically 100% proof, and he doesn't have the get in his hand anymore. It's ripped up. So therefore, he doesn't have the 100% proof that a shlish normally would have. So the Gemara asks, Kara Lamli, why did the Mishnah say it was ripped up? Amar Rav Yehuda Marav b'shasak zerashano. Our Mishnah, the reason it said Kara is because it was talking about a time where the Roman government basically made an edict, and they said that you're not supposed to have Gittin, right? If you want to get divorced, you go to the government, right? You don't rely on Bate Din and Jewish courts. Therefore, they didn't want to have proof of this, they would rip it up. They would rip up the get after it was delivered into the hands of Shidel Kabbalah, and therefore it was no longer necessary. Amar Rabba. Rabba says, Moda Rav Huna. Rav Huna says, we believe the husband, the Amra Ihi Ladidi Amar Li Shlish. If the woman were to say that the Shlish said to her, the Legerishan Yahave Nihale, that the man gave it to him for Gerishan Mehemna. And she's believed. The Gemara says, the Shlish Gufe Lo Mehemen Ihi Mehemna. Right, the shlish has more ne'emonis. So we prove that the shlish has more ne'emonis than the woman or the man. So if the shlish is not ne'eman, how could she be believed? Ella Iamra, what he meant to say, Iamra kamai didi legerishin yahave nehale mehemna. If she were to say that in front of me, right, the man gave it to him, to the shlish, she's believed. Migudi baya amra, l'dida yahava nahale, baal. Because she could say that the husband gave it to her. So she has amigo over here. Amigo is, we'll talk about how amigo helps your claim, but amigo is additional proof to help your claim because the woman could say that the man gave it to her. Now the Gemara discusses another case. Baal Amar legerishin. The husband says that he gave the get for gerishin to the shliach. For shlish Amar legerishin. The shliach says also it was given to him for gerishin. He omeres nasa and liva avar. And she says, right, the shlish gave it back to her, but she lost it. Amar Rabbi Yochanan hava davar shebe'ever. We don't have the get. We don't know, right? There's no proof of the get because it's lost. Can we rely on all three of these people saying there was a gerushin? Can we rely on them? Amar Rabbi Yochanan hava davar shebe'ever in davar shebe'ever palk mishnayim. You need two witnesses. None of these people are good enough like witnesses. V'amai. So the Gemara questions. So lahemne l'shlish. At least believes to the shlish. Mika nafik gita mitata yadi. The Gemara lahemne. The Gemara again says a shlish is merely an eid echad. If he has a migu, fine. But here there's no get in his hands. He's only believed if he has a get in his hands because he has a migu. He could have given it to her. He doesn't have it in his hands. He has no migu. Lahemne labal. At least believe the baal. The Amar Rav Chia Barav and Amar B'Yochanan Baal Shamar Girashti Asishti. A husband comes in front of a court. He says, "I divorced my wife." Neman. He's believed just on his mere testimony. Mika Amar. Why is he believed? The explanation is because a husband always can megarish his wife. He can megarish her Baal Korcha according to the Torah law. So if he can megarish her Baal Korcha, so he's believed to say that he was megarish her, right? Because it's in his power. It's biyado. It's a type of migo. Mika Amar Girashti. The Gemara says, but he didn't say he was megarish her over here. He says he gave it to the shlish. He didn't say he was megarish her. V'leima. So the Gemara first says, V'leima chazaka shliach oser shlichuso. So he says he gave it to the shliach. And we assume the shliach, there's a chazaka, is an assumption that shliach does what he's told to do. How do we know that's true? The Amar Rabbi Yitzchak, Amar the shlucho save a kaddish leisha. Famous case. Rabbi Yitzchak says, he says to a shliach, go and makadish a woman for me. Stop. I'm not telling you to makadish. Find me a wife. Right? Eliezer, Avram says to Eliezer, find Yitzchak a wife. Umeis shlucho. Umeis shlucho. The shliach died. And he can't report back who he was makadesh. Asr b'chol noshin sha'olam. This person who sent the men who made him a shliach, he cannot marry any woman in the world. Why? Because we're worried that he was makadesh a woman, and now the woman he's marrying now is one of the relatives, the sister or the mother or the daughter of the woman that he was makadesh, which are all rayos. Chazaka shlichus. We assume that he carried out his shlichus. We discussed other times. This Gemara came up in Sefes Nazir why there's not constant rove over here, right? Most of the women in the world are permitted to him. Why don't we rely on rove over here? Go back to that share, the Ian share. You'll hear my explanation. Whereas Hanimila the Chumrah. So the Gemara says, when do we say Chazaka shlichos shlichus? So that's the Chumrah, right? The Asarim in all the world. We're not sure. Chazaka shlichos shlichus is an assumption. It's a Chazaka. So when it's the Chumrah or Machmir, we assume that he did do a shlichus. Alakula, to assume in this case where there's no shtei edim to the validity of the gerushin, it's just him giving it to the shlish or with the shliach to do it. The kula, we don't assume that he did a shlichus. Fine. So we can't believe the man. We can't believe the shlish or the shliach. Let's believe the woman. Midarav Hamnuna, the Amar Rav Hamnuna, Isha Sha'amar Labaila, Gerish Jani. A woman comes in front of court in the presence of her husband, and she says, "You divorced me," without a document of divorce. Nemena, she's believed. Why? A woman's embarrassed of her husband. Unless it was true, she would never say that he divorced her. So here, the fact that she's saying, "I was divorced," we should believe her. When do we say that a woman is trusted, that she's not going to lie and say that she was divorced when she wasn't, and say that she was divorced when she actually wasn't divorced? Where there's no one that's supporting her claim. Well, here both the husband and the shlish are supporting her testimony. So therefore, it's possible that she could lie and say that she was divorced when in fact she really was not divorced. And therefore the halacha in this case, even though all three of them are saying there was a divorce, since the get is not found, you need two eidim to testify that the get was given over from the shliach's hands to the isha, because like behold, Rebbe Lezer says, eidim sira karsi, You need the two Eidim over here for the 100% proof of the Gerushin. The Mishnah says Nara Hamurasa, the new Mishnah. Nara Murasa, a girl who's Nara Murasa, which is a Nara. She's developed Simanim. She's 12 years old. She's developed Simanim. But she's not yet a Bulgarian. She's not yet an adult. She's engaged. He Vavia Makablin as Gita. Then she gets divorced from the engagement, right? So who's Makabal get? If a Aktana, a daughter who's below the age of 12, gets married, the father can marry off Midaraisa. The father's Makabal get for her, we said yesterday. But if she's down Marasa, she has Das, she's 12 years old, she understands things. Could she accept the Gerushin for herself? According to Tanakama, both either her father or her. Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Ein shtei yadayim zochos ka'achas. Two people can't have the same right. Ela avia makabel as gita belvad. The only one who could accept the get is valid gerushin if the father accepts it. But kol she'ena yachol lishmar as gita, ena yachol lishgarish. The Mishnah adds another halacha. Any type of woman who can't protect her get, the gerushin given to her is not effective. The Gemara says, "My kamifli." What are they arguing about in the first machlokas? On a common Rabbi Yehuda, Rabban Sabri Yada Yisrael Sa Zakila Rachmana. This is a unique case, not Amurah. So the Torah gave a yad; it gave an ability for an extra person, the daughter also, the Amurah, and also to accept her get. Rabbi Yehuda Savar b'makom avia yad dila lav klumi. When her father is around, right, her hand, her ability to accept them, even though she could make kinyanim, she's of age to make kinyanim. Nonetheless, she, in the presence of her father is the one who dominates her decision making. So therefore, only he is able to accept the gerushin. Kol she'eni yachol lishmar as gita. The Mishnah continues. Tana Rabbanan, Tana yudat lishmar as gita miskareshes. A girl who's not yet bat mitzvah, but she knows how to protect her get. She's megureshes. Sounds like even the right though. She doesn't know how to watch her get. It's not a valid gerushin. What's the definition of being able to protect your own get? She's shomer her get and something else. Mike Amar. What does that mean? Right? If her get were to get lost, she would make sure something else would be safe, right? Her get somehow got lost. She's going to protect something else in place of her get. She's crazy. She's insane. She's weird. She's mentally incompetent, right? She got divorced with a bill of divorce with a gerushin, and she thinks something else is good enough in lieu of the actual document. She's a shota. She can't possibly be goresha. She doesn't have das. She can distinguish between a get and something else. You have two documents. One is a bill of divorce, and one is some other piece of paper that someone scribbled some words on. She can tell the difference. That's enough of an age in order to become. We'll talk more tomorrow about ketanim and making kinyanim, but here, gerushin is not a full kinyan, right? A husband's megarish his wife bal karcha. It's a partial type of kinyan. That's why, if she's yodas shmar gita, she could be megureshes. Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Rabbi Yasi, Sror v'zorko, egos v'notlo, zochel ha'atzma and zochel ha'acherim. We're talking about now about kinyanim, not just kiddushin and gerushin, making a kinyan, a monetary acquisition. What age could you make monetary acquisitions? So we're seeing from this Gemara, you don't have to be a gadol. You don't have to be someone who's 13 years old for a boy or 12 years old for a girl. Even underage, what's the definition of the age where you can make financial transactions? If someone gives him a rock, he'll throw it away. But if he gives him a nut, he'll take it. He understands the difference between a rock and a nut. In that case, if someone gives him something, or someone sells him something, he can acquire that. But he can't be maknet to somebody else. He can't give over property of something that he has to somebody else. However, if someone lets him borrow something, and he knows by his own intuition he has to give it back to him after an hour because he borrowed it, so then not only could he make his own kinyanim, but he also could be maknet to other people. He could help other people acquire different things from him. He can give a present to someone else. He can sell something to someone else. He says when I said this in front of Shmuel, Amrli David Achasi. He said this and this are one. So the Gemara says, "My David Achasi." What did Shmuel mean? Amar of Chisda Echad Zev Echad Zev Zochel Atzma and Zochel Acherim. In both of these cases, even if he has the capability and knowing to be a responsible person. If someone gives him something to borrow, he knows to return it after an hour. That does not give him the legal ability to be makna in order to transfer ownership to somebody else. It only gives them both of these stages, even though obviously Rav Chisda and Shmuel would agree it's a more advanced stage to have responsibility, to know that you have to return something. Nonetheless, until you're actually a gadol, you have no power to be makna, to actually transfer ownership to somebody else. All you have the ability is to be kona, to acquire your own ownership. The Gemara is going to ask certain questions on Rav Chisda. We're going to stop over here. Stay tuned for Ian with Ben Sion, where I talk about the first half of this daf, really, where it talks about a shlish, the nemonis of a shlish. A shlish has more nemonis than the bali davar. We pass it to Rav Chisda. Not like Rav Huna. Rav Chisda says the shlish is believed. If he contests against the Baal says, I gave it the shlish to watch, not to give a gerushin, and the shlish says, no, I was makabel it as a gerushin. We believe the shlish. We'll talk about the nemanis of a shlish and how that relates to specifically Relezer's sheet, the Ede Mesira Karsi, which I'm going to tell you right now is 100% proof, and what exactly Relezer means by Ede Mesira Karsi. Ian with Ben Sion coming up next.